So what I've been doing so far is looking at naming simple hydrocarbons. So that's naming carbon chains and then looking at basic functional groups, which might be side chains of carbon and hydrogen, or double bonds or triple bonds between hydrogen and carbon as well. But that's not the only things that are going to be in organic compounds. Some organic compounds contain oxygen, some contain nitrogen, some contain chlorine, and a whole bunch of other atoms in there as well. What you need to be able to do as a chemist is recognize from a name what that organic structure is going to look like. The reason we need to kind of match the name to the structure is the fact that the structure is what gives it its properties, which influences how it's going to react and how it might interact with other compounds. So let's have a look at naming organic compounds, in particular functional groups. You can see here that I have a long list of things that could be attached to an organic compound. Some of these, which are this section here, affect the suffix of a name. So instead of being a butane, it will turn into butanoic acid, butanol, butanone, and whatever. So these ones here affect the suffix of the name. The ones down here, these guys affect the prefix, so they add to the start of the name. And what we need to be able to do is memorize most of this stuff here. It looks like a lot, however, after a lot of practice, it becomes second nature. It's like learning a second language. What you'll also see in our name is not just a changing suffix, but also a number. That indicates where this functional group actually sits. So if you name a carbon chain from one side all the way through to the end, you'll end up finding out where this functional group is. My examples here are all number 2, which means that they're coming off the second carbon. But what actually indicates, or how do you know to number from the left or number from the right? Well, the priority of our functional groups is what matters. And the most important to the least important is how I've listed the functional groups here. The carboxylic acid functional group, which is a COOH up the top there, that is the most important. So if you have a carboxyl group, the carboxyl carbon will be ranked number 1. If you have something like a hydroxyl, what you'll try and do is number, so therefore the hydroxyl will become the lowest number it possibly can. Not explaining that very well. It's best off to see in context. And I've got a couple of videos on how to number these things and name these things in my channel as well. Why do we care about all this type of stuff? Well, as I said before, by reading a name, you should be able to visualize what the molecule looks like and then talk about the properties of that molecule, both the chemical properties in terms of how it reacts and the physical properties like melting points and boiling points. That's what organic chemistry is about in terms of naming and understanding.